Welcome to The Digital Shift. We are your hosts, Jessica Green
and Natasha Roberson. Together, we are here to help you build a tech-savvy empire and take your business to the next level.
If you're an entrepreneur, social marketer, or business owner, ready to scale smarter, not harder, this is the podcast for you.
Every week, we bring you expert insights, actionable strategies, and the latest trends to help you infuse tech into your business so you can automate, optimize, and grow.
From mastering automation and creating high-converting systems to building authentic customer connections, we cover everything you need to shift your business into higher gear.
So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and get ready to make your digital shift.
Let's do this. All right, welcome to episode 21. We're getting there of the Digital Shift podcast. I am Jessica Green, your CEO and founder of Self-Made, and I have a really special guest coming on here today. Her name is Julia Thornhill. She's gone from military service to million-dollar leadership, and we want to talk about how Julia has built a global network in over 20 countries. We are going to talk about how she created her own six-figure earnings and more, and a lot of other six-figure earners in her business, and has pioneered systems that have driven nearly 100 million in commissions. So from serving in Iraq, leading a faith-based movement in business, Julia's journey is nothing short of inspiring, and it is a lot of fun, I'll say, to watch you speak, to hear you speak, and to be able to share with people all of the things that you have accomplished and also take people along that journey with you. You are definitely a leader of leaders, and it shows and shines every single time I get to see you around your team and talk about your team and how you integrate your team and how you have this like board on your team of everyone gets to, if they are actually putting in the work, they actually get a say in what's going on in your organization. One thing that you are sought out for and sought after in this industry right now is being like this systems queen who puts together a whole lot of different systems on your team so that you guys can become the biggest, baddest, best network marketing team that is out there. And I'm super excited to dig in with you today and learn a little bit about that. We've been working together in the Self-Made Hub for a few months now. It's been fun getting a lot of your insight on what you like to build as systems for your team and how we get to help you put some tech behind all of that. And so, Julia, just introduce yourself. Give us a little background on you. Who are you? Where'd you come from? What are you doing now?
Man, thanks, Jess. Who am I now? I am a slave to my two little kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I'm a personal assistant, a chef, all the things to them. But yeah, I was in traditional marketing space for years. I did the whole get a good job, get good grades and all the things. I joined the military really young to help pay for college, found myself in Iraq in 2008. And I was doing a bunch of odd jobs, everything from building websites on the high side to copywriting, and worked my way up the ladder as a marketing director, started several companies out of college, and then found myself at 30 years old, completely uninspired, in a lot of debt, good paying job, but just no time freedom whatsoever. And my husband was a Navy SEAL, which in my eyes just meant he was gone all the time, literally 300 days out of the year. We never saw each other. And I just didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I came from nothing. I grew up on food stamps, a free lunch system, all the things. My husband grew up on a trailer park. We didn't know. We didn't have mentorship either. And we got into the industry at really the right time. I was just like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Right. And, I fell in love with systems and culture and community. And, through that, we've been full-time now for 7 years out of the 9 years we've been in the space. And, several years ago, we said, let's create a community we can trust our own kids around. And we're very bold in our faith, bold in our beliefs, bold in a lot of things. And I think we attract a lot of people in that same regard. And we've been in momentum for almost 10 years now. And I'm just in love with the industry, but definitely systems. I think as a mom and just a busy entrepreneur, you have to have those things in place or you will burn out. And I've been there without them before.
Oh God, that's so true. The burnout is real if you don't put systems in place. I had to learn that the hard way. And I think we're a lot alike in the like type A, go get them, like nonstop, get it all done. And I will say, like, in my journey, I found myself in the spot where people were like, you better be careful, you're going to burn out. And I'm like, I am not. Like, burnout's for losers, for people who don't know what they're doing and just get lazy. That's literally what my mind thought. And I just thought I could do it all. So I didn't necessarily put all the systems in place. It was like, I kind of knew some of that needed to go into place. And then I found myself in burnout mode. And then I was like, this is what they meant. And that's when Self-Made Hub was actually born, in my burnout beanbag phase, where I had to go like lick my wounds and drool on myself for a couple of months because I was completely and totally and utterly burnt out, and realized, wow, so many entrepreneurs need more systems, more tech, more automation, more duplicatable things. And so I just set out on this journey to go build that. Right. And so I totally can key in on you saying that, because I've been through it. I know it to be true because I've experienced it. And I didn't think thought it was this elusive thing that only, lazy people burned out, but it's not true. You will. So you have built this massive team. And I heard you say that you've been in momentum for 10 years. And most people, I would be like, okay, but actually I've watched you. I've watched you. I mean, that's unheard of, to be in momentum in network marketing for 10 years. I mean, honestly,
multiple pockets all the time. If you're not, you're always building new teams, new communities, new countries. And so I've always been in phase one. I mean, I was just always told, like, if you're not, your team's gonna do half of what you do right and 100% of what you do wrong, type of thing. Right. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, every quarter there's kind of a new group, new team, new culture that we've brought in over the years. I would say, the slowest part of my career was maybe when I gave birth to my first, but I deserve that time to be taken off. And I have an amazing team that stepped up and, was there. But we never had, in almost 10 years now, a year that we haven't been in momentum in some other place or country or city in the world. And that makes it fun. I think it has a lot to do with culture. And I've invested well over $500,000 on systems, leadership, mentorship. I mean, all the type of things that I think is needed kind of in entrepreneurship, but also there's some trial and error there, and that's why it was so fun when we connected. Because I just love your brain and you get it. You've been in this space and you've seen some of the issues in this space that I think that will happen at a high level leadership, if you're not prepared for it. And now at this point in my career, I'm like, man, now I feel like for the first time in a long time, I have so many great systems in place. And a lot of this obviously has to do with you guys, for someone to not have to go through that burnout phase, for someone to put systems in place before that big momentum, or before you're, doing millions a month or whatever it might be. Because if not, you're going to hit that lid a lot faster. And sure, there's seasons. I don't believe in balance. I think that's a unicorn word. If you figured that out, great. Love that for you. Haven't figured that out. I believe in seasons. And you will have less hardships in seasons if you have systems in place. I believe that women can have it all, but they can't do it all, and they can't do it alone. And when you have a community and a culture, a lot like what you've created as well, right? Of just entrepreneurs that want a one-stop shop, but also, being able to not have to do all the things at all the time. I mean, you can do a lot of things manually, but at some point you're going to want to play with your kids, a little bit more, right? And that's where these things come into place.
Yeah, if you get yourself trapped in a corner or backed into a place where you have to. And I found myself there, and everyone having to rely on me for the answers. And that was not a good way to build things. And I know there's a lot of network marketers out there doing that same thing for multiple different reasons. Sometimes they just like to be the person with all the answers because it feeds them, right? But at a certain point, that will break under pressure, because you won't be able to handle, if you're going into a season of momentum or you have a big team that's growing, you can't always be the answer. So I've heard you at a number of events talk about the different types of systems that you put in place in your team. Is there like 4 or 5? There's like some major systems you put in place. Would you spell those out for us?
Which leadership, first onboarding? I mean,
well, like you kind of have a system for like creating culture on your team, and having this board of leaders on your team, and having systems put in place for events and all of that.
Yeah. So, I'm pretty intentional with everything that we do, from all of our events to from calls to training. And so everything we do is around the 7 areas of growth for an extraordinary life. According to Tony Robbins, it's not something that I just kind of made up. It's just we're really intentional there to make sure that we're providing and teaching things that school doesn't teach people. But, I think culture is everything. And this has a lot to do with how we've been able to grow throughout plenty of challenges. And that's probably number one. I mean, you could have some really great things in place, but if your culture isn't collaborative and, you don't have any cattiness, like there's no red tape, like everyone's best friends. And I think I've mentioned before, I have committees, I have a CEO council and then I have
Yeah.
a paid VA, tech team, project manager. And then I have committees that run quarterly, biannually, whatever, whether it's our comms committee, social media committee, events committee, our customer committee. And these are just basically groups of leaders that are up and coming, or they've been around the block for a little bit, that have amazing gifts. And this goes back to, yes, you can have some great systems in place, but you can also put in some systems like this where you're not doing all things at all times. You're not the end of the rope at all times. You're able to bring together, and basically I run a company within a company, a culture of it's volunteer army, but now they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued, they feel like they have a voice, right? They feel part of that overall mission. And I think when you can step into a leadership role of empowerment, then you just start to create these really great teams and cultures and subcultures within kind of your main culture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And that's exactly what I was talking about, is your committees. Like I couldn't come up with the word, but like you have these like compartmental things that you assign, or not even assign. It's almost like everybody feels like at the top of your organization feels like if they put the time in, if they put the effort in, if they put the energy in, that they get a say. And then it's not all on you too. So it goes, loved this when I first heard you say it, because I was like, it goes both ways. They kind of have to earn their spot into getting a say, but it gives you some more freedom back, so you're not having to be the one that everybody's going to and asking all the questions of. But it also creates more leaders among leaders on your team. It's like the perfect combination. I wish I had learned that when I was still in the field building the business, because that was like invaluable to hear that. I'm like, oh yeah, committees, give them some responsibility in building it, but also they feel heard. So you don't put anything in place. Like even these systems we've been building together, like, I mean, right now there's like an opportunity registration webinar thing that we're trying to build in. And you're like, I have to take this back to the team first.
Yep.
Yeah. Top down. I hear you say it all the time. And I totally respect that, because there's a lot of leadership out there that will just deploy a lot of things. I've been guilty of it in the past, quite honestly. And not even that the team is going to go against what you're wanting, but just the fact that they get a say creates so much good culture on your team. That's why you guys do have the close knit, well-oiled machine that's working. I remember asking you when we took a trip to Hawaii last year for a mastermind. I remember walking around Hawaii asking you, because you're like a little bit of a unicorn in this space and people kind of want to know what you do different and how you're doing it, right? So I was like, well, I have a couple questions for her, because I have failed a little bit at some of these things. And not that at that point I was looking at building in the field anymore. We've built this technology. We want to help as many leaders as we can with it. But I was really curious, like there's a couple points in my network marketing career where I was like, where did I go wrong on that part? And I had asked you, I have a team of a lot of women. This is totally off subject, but I'm going to say this because it was super valuable for me at that time. And I think it would be super valuable for other people. I was like, we had a team full of women and there was just always so much drama. And ask you, just there was like a few things that you gave me, but one of them was your husband, Brandon. Is like nice having that male role in the team that can also just like have that even playing field. I don't know if women do better when there's a mixture of men and women and all of that, but how do you quell the drama between all the women on your team?
Feel really, in my very beginning, I was just chatting with Brayden actually the other day. Like, remember that one girl in their first month? Like, you don't know in the beginning, and then you start working with thousands of people, and you can really catch some red flags earlier on.
Yeah.
So now, like, I know pretty quickly. I mean, if I'm working with you for a week or two, I'm gonna, not that I can't mold that. I mean, but you can't really change character. And so, for me, it's not just my husband and I. We also have really great support. My other mentors, top money earner in the whole company, and he's a male as well. Him and his wife are amazing. And so, I bring in some hard coaching. I think at the end of the day, a coach and a friend tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And, we're really great at, and especially my husband. I mean, like that Papa Bear, but he's also very direct, but he's in a caring way. Like, listen, like you have the potential and all of the things, but here's what we can't have. And so we draw the line pretty early on saying of what's right and wrong. And not like this is what we think. This is like, 101, like this can't happen, like this negativity here, or, you have to have some emotional maturity that is grown throughout leadership. And so we can notice those immaturities on pretty early on to be able to set boundaries. So whether either so it doesn't happen again. Like there's like, okay, if there's like strike one, strike two, strike, after a while, it's like, hey, if this happens again, like you can still operate, but you're not going to be in a call, or, you need to, I mean, it kind of sounds like, you're like with your, like, not you're reprimanding your kids, but
Yeah.
you care and you want them to step into their power versus like a victim mentality. And so we do a really great job at coming in early on to just set the standard, which is really just setting the culture of this is how we operate. One team, one fight. We're all, you know what I mean? And not that you have to work with anybody, but we have our values, we have our core values to our team, and we stand by them. And, if you stand for nothing, I always say this all the time, you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
And so we're we just have a really tight culture of collaboration. So I don't know, I just fortunate because I hear a lot of these horror stories of like a lot different drama and clickiness and all of that. I've been really fortunate to be in a team that we didn't have any of that. But if I do see it coming in with new groups and new teams, we'll catch it pretty early
Yeah,
on.
things I wish I could go back and do differently. Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time, unfortunately, in network marketing, and some of it is like, this is what I would always say. Well, in network marketing, you can recruit anyone, and it's like, yay. And then it's like, you can recruit anyone. You just never
Yep.
know. You don't need any experience. You don't have to have a specific background, and that's like has its pluses, but it can also have its minuses, and you got to watch out for that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I wish somebody would have taught me those lessons prior to getting in network marketing. Okay, let's take a little shift here. You talk a lot about mastering retention and focusing on retention more than you actually talk about recruiting necessarily. What is your
Mhm.
secret in the retention game? Like, what is it?
High touch, I'm very much I don't think you can recognize anybody too much. I mean, there's two different types of retention, right? There's like leadership retention, there's customer retention. I definitely fall heavily on the leadership retention side of things. I love people, I love to champion them, I love to shout them out. So for me, I have several different processes, outside of recognition from daily, weekly, and monthly, and championing people through the month based on their numbers, how they're doing, I can help them. Lots of voice messages in the DMs, definitely calls. I'm working with always my top 7. I'm connecting with them every single day. So when I'm working with just new teams in the pocket, I am like, there's assignments there. I'm coaching them. There's a lot of strategy calls there. From overall kind of macro view, looking at the whole team, I do have surveys. So any new leader that comes into my organization that, hits a certain level, whether it's 5K or 25K or 50K a month, let's say in sales, I have a survey they fill out, and it's everything from their kids' names to their birthdays to their flowers, the gift that they'll hate, to their favorite dream local destination, to their favorite luxury gift, to what their love language is. Because I think too, people say, oh, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Well, yeah, you can again. I mean, from the recruiting side to the leadership side, I've dove in on like Enneagrams and different types of platforms to really understand my leaders on a what them type of level, right? What moves them? How can
Right.
I help them as a leader feel valued? Some of my girls, I'm like, they just want to be a coaching call and chat all day long. Some of them love gifts. Like I just bought some earrings for one of my leaders. I'm not a big fan of Gucci at all. I know she does. She loves it. It's her favorite brand, So I got those for her, but she also, her love language is gifts. Where I have some leaders where it's like, let's just chat, or let's, if I
Spend time with
fly to them
me.
for 24 hours, yeah, let's spend time together. And so I think having that awareness and then being able to trickle that down in your organization to teach that goes a long way for sure from a retention strategy. And then events is a whole other retention strategy ball game.
Oh, yeah, I know, and you guys do really great ones.
We've done a lot. Yeah, thanks. A lot of unique ones, from marriage retreats to leadership boot camps. I mean, going to Dubai. I mean, yes, we travel for sure.
Yeah, I know. I love to watch all of your travel. I do. I think everybody likes to follow that journey. You're really good about posting in your stories and having people follow a
Thanks.
journey, which is outstanding. Okay. You've helped create this is a fact in here. I was just reading today. You've helped create over 100 six-figure earners. Stop it. Really?
And several seven-figure earners. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the key to
Wow.
duplicating that success?
I mean, we're sharing it a little bit here, right? 95%, maybe 90 now, is no experience. I think that's probably my
That's
best
huge.
like part about that. I mean, I came in to my only first company, right, with no experience, and I just was like, I just loved on people, and I sucked really bad in the beginning. Don't get me wrong, like I've come a long way. I had no social media, like it was, I mean, awful. If you met me, you'd be like, she is not going to make it, but here I am. I'm just relentlessly consistent and tenacious, I guess. But yeah, I think, man, I've kind of let God with things. I'm just like, I'm very intentional with who I want to recruit and do life with. And I think when you are intentional with who you want to work with, there's certain instances that, where he puts the right people in your life. And I've been really fortunate to have some amazing leaders that I call my absolute best friends. Our kids are best friends. We travel all around the world together. And I think that's the best part about it. Like you mentioned, you don't have to work with everyone, but it's super
Yeah.
cool when you find your people and just
Yeah.
love them hard. And so, again, that all has to do with systems. What's a system? Everyone does it, everyone knows it, and it works. And that's evolved over time, And so, like you were mentioning, some of this automation stuff we're putting into place for even capturing leads. Back in the day, very, very on, it was like only home events. And I was like, I think we could do this online. And I was like the black sheep doing Facebook groups, right?
That would be-
Yes, right. And I'm like, I think we can do this even better. And then like ManyChat and Project Broadcast came along, and now those are kind of like, old school tools if you've been around the block for a minute. And so we're kind of entering in, I believe, the most powerful and exciting time in our industry's history, from tools and automations and systems, to really just be able to have a little bit more freedom there that had to be very manual back in the day, to just even pour more of your gifts and expertise in the places that you want to, to put time and effort there. So it's a
Yeah,
lot more
no more.
fun.
We don't have to always draw on the back of a napkin. We've moved out of recruiting people at Panera and Starbucks, and now
Oh
I
my
said,
gosh.
so do you
Yes.
remember I said this the other day on a training, and I've said it a couple of times. They used to say in network marketing all the time, cast a wide net. And while I think that that is true, because you didn't have access to thousands of people at your fingertips every single day, we've got to change that theory of cast a wide net, because when you cast a wide net on social media, like no one knows exactly who you're talking to. It's a totally different world out there now, in so many different ways we can recruit, but that comes along with like teaching different systems and ways to automate it and ways to collect all those leads. And no, we don't need Excel spreadsheets or notebooks full of names anymore, or napkins with the plan on it, or any of that, because it can all be digital and virtual and amazing. Before I move completely over to automation, because listen, I've got some questions, but I want to ask this one first while we clear out the part on recruiting. What do you feel like are some of the biggest mistakes that leaders make to cause their teams to fall apart? I know that's kind of a deeper question, but one that I think would be really good coming from someone who's been able to keep a large team together for quite some time in momentum.
So there's a few different things, but you mentioned automation, or you mentioned recruiting, sorry. So specifically with recruiting that causes your teams to fall apart?
Just in general, what are some mistakes you see other leaders making out there that cause their teams to fall apart? They just like, is it bad culture? Are they not doing the top down approach? Are they, what do you feel like are some of the biggest mistakes that leaders make that they could avoid?
And it's momentum can make you look a lot better than you are, and no momentum can make you look a lot worse than what you are. And so I think there's majority of what I've seen in the industry over almost 10 years now is ego. There's just a lot of like, there's you, like my husband always said in the SEAL teams, in the SEAL teams, they say you earn your trident every day, is like a slogan basically. And so I think in leadership, I always say, if you're too big to cash, if you're too big to do little things, you're too little to cash the big checks. And so I think oftentimes I see kind of leaders, several of my mentors always say leaders at 5 years become either an expense or an asset to the company. And I think after 5 years, you kind of have to reinvent yourself. But there are leaders that there's like leaders and there's earners,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
they might hit this like, oh, I made it. And it's like, okay, well, like, love that for you. But what are you doing today? What did versus what did you do 5, 10 years ago? Like, that's great. Like,
Right.
awesome, great job. But also there's a lot of earners versus leaders because they also haven't been able to rebuild. Like, I have been through it all, like literally through it all. Okay. And so I rebuilt and multiple times. And so I think ego is probably one of the biggest faults for sure. Of just not even and not having like a mentor to kind of check you where you need to be. Like, I'm not perfect. I've text messages versus calling leaders sometimes that didn't go off the right way because the tonality can be read wrong, right? But
Yeah.
like there's just a lot of lessons learned there. But when you have a mentor that can also mold you into who you're supposed to be and made to be, that also helps. So ego is probably number one, followed by culture. If you're like stealing people in your downline, I've heard of horror stories like that. Like, there's way too many fish in the sea. If you're not, I think just like the value there, people wanting to get on the calls, or they wanting, like, what are you providing that's unique? What's the messaging? What's the mission? What's the vision in your overall organization? But again, ego, I think that's a whole other, we could probably,
Yeah.
I
It is.
mean,
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast episode. Egos
yes.
and network marketing. No. Okay, let's shift gears. I want to talk about automations. I'll say I have conversations, obviously, every single day with different top leaders across the industry about wanting to build in systems and automation and duplication. And if I don't hear at least once a week, well, do you know who Julia Thornhill is? And have you seen any of her stuff that she's building? If I don't hear that regularly, people definitely see, and you're loud and proud about building the technology for your team and building systems prior to us ever working together. I would never take credit for that. Like, we've just found a common mission here and we can help each other. But you've been building technology and systems and automation and things for your team for a while now. And you've been loud and proud about putting that in your stories and letting people know, hey, this is the team for you. This is the company for you. This is the opportunity for you, because here's what we do for you. And just talk a little bit around that. Like, how has that really helped your teams, your efficiency? Just talk all things automation to me.
People want different. They're ready for it. I mean, if you've been in this space for longer than, a few years, you've seen how it evolved. I think since COVID really expedited some things. There was a lot of, false growth or false momentum maybe during COVID for certain people. And then they had to really work harder or just really smarter. But right now, man, I mean, I have girls enrolling hundreds of people a month, and that wouldn't be possible on a consistent basis if it wasn't for actually collecting and building a book of business, for example, right? And I've been guilty of this. I've collected emails and didn't do anything with them. It's a learning process for me, even for my own self. I'm always learning in this space. But I think what people really want, there's so many different systems out there, and there's so many different like automation, AI, and that could be like a trendy word, but really show me what that looks like. There's so much smoke and mirrors. Jess, if I told you, my gosh, I buy everything. I'm like, ooh, this looks good. Like, I'm online, like, oh, this is how you generated whatever. I just spent, I'm not even make this up. I spent $150. I was like late at night, and I was just like, I've been following this girl for a hot minute. And she's like, let me show you my like back end, funnel, whatever, many chat flows. It was literally like 3 steps. There was nothing like, there wasn't like a 30-day nurture campaign, which is what we have for our team now, right? And automation and emails and text campaigns, like strategically built out. It's just like so much smoke and mirrors. And so, what I think now is people, they want to plug and play. They want the email and the drip campaigns and all of that. They don't want to set it up, even though they should and they can. And so I think for us and our organization, what's so cool about it now is I actually just brought in like several major influencers. I haven't even told you this. We're about to get them hooked up. They're super fired up. They're like, thank God, because they've been using like all the old school, like the project broadcast, the many chat here, the link tree here, the website here, the, count, all these different tools, which are great. But when it's seamless and a one-stop shop and you can really plug and play and tweak a few things and then just create, as a creator, that's what you want to do. As a mom, that's what you want to do. As someone
Yeah.
that just has a lot of things on their plate, that's what you want to do. And now for the first time in my career, we are from, a marketer side of things to a social seller side of things. We just for everybody. And it's, it takes some time to build out, sure, but once it's built out, I think what's cool about your platform too is you can share those with your teams. You can collaborate and create this really great synergy of your influencers and your networkers that are working together, building together, sharing all the things that are working together, to just create even a more powerful army of entrepreneurs that want to help people.
It's like, I know, like when I was in the midst of building, that I would have had then what I have now, right? But I was on this mission to create something like this with the mindset of not everybody is techie, right? So you can have tech tools out there, but most people don't get involved in network marketing with a tech background and how to build email campaigns and how to build automation and how to build a funnel or a website. And so they're kind of like, they're learning how. Listen, this is what I will tell people all day long. Your team is on social media. They are watching what other people are doing. They are going to go buy systems and tools and other things and waste their time and waste their money on stuff because they think that that's the way to the promised land, right? To put automation in, to put some technology in. And they're not wrong. But what sucks is they're going to go spend time where they could just be focusing on creating content for recruiting and going out there and recruiting and having good income producing activity conversations, going to try to now get a degree in how to set up all this automation. Mm-hmm. Or there's leaders like you that will go and say, listen, let me build it all. Let me have a system and the funnels and the emails and the campaigns already built for you so that you can just come in. And yes, you want that because you're going to go out and get the ManyChats and the project broadcast and the, MailChimp and all of the things and try to plug them together and be super frustrated. Or I can already have everything you already need. It's already been tested. It's already been tried. It already recruits. It already converts. It already works. Right. And you can plug and play those systems. It's been a journey to get to that point to help people build that stuff. But it's like we knew that's what was needed because while you and I are smart enough to build a website or an email marketing campaign, are good enough at copy to put some stuff together, figure out how to connect some things, the 90% of our team, if not more, is never going to know how to do that. And they're going to spend a lot of time, effort, and energy trying to put those things together because they do know that that's what needs to happen, right, but they don't know how to do it. So, hats off to you. What will you say is like, you've got a lot cooking, right? Like you've got an automated onboarding system, you've got funnels, you've got pages that we've built, we've got marketing systems. Like, what do you feel like is I know the automated evergreen webinar system is really cooking. Like, what are some of the things that you find the most valuable for your team?
I think, I feel like, what I have right now, I feel like it's a hybrid where I can support network marketers and social sellers, which I think is a really cool place to be, right? And then you have those unicorns that can do both. And so from the social seller side of things, or people that want to really build online, collect the lead, I think what's so cool about the platform, and I don't know if it's share kind of what we work with and what the platform what you have is, you drop a keyword and you can collect the email, the text, or their phone number, and then you can text and email them and really collect that lead. So like right now we have a sale that's dropping. So one of my girls, she's brought in 50,000 leads just in the last, I don't know, probably this week. Who knows? I can't keep up. But she's able to actually collect and then blast promo that's dropping. So like we just got off a call, we were building out some things for her, but also we can share that to the organization that wants that, right? Or that have the platform. Not everybody is ready for that, but a lot are. And when you don't have it, then they might go somewhere else, right? And I think when you either pave the way or you kind of get your way. And so I've always tried to be ahead of the curve. I've done a platform, you name it, from Kartra to Rapid Fire, all the things. And there just wasn't one that did all of that, not just the email and text and all of that automation, but also that links your social media that can, get rid of your Calendly. It's just, I don't know. It's just the coolest platform I found ever,
I love it.
And yes. And it's just so good. So I totally forgot your question.
No, you're good. It's just like, no, it really was the answer to it. It's like, what automations are the things that are working the best for your team right now? And I know like there's a lot of different things that we're cooking up and working on. And one thing that you just said was like, if they can't, if they know they want it and the team is not going to provide it, and their team just doesn't, like, talk about culture, right? Are you in a growth mindset about technology is not going anywhere but up? Like, it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep having more tools. So if you're not deploying any technology into your team or giving them any automation or up to that, we've people say, I really would like to build some of the stuff that I see this girl online building. And we just wait for them to say your name. There's only a few people that really do it loudly and proudly. And so we always are very careful about, sharing any information about who our clients are, because we have a lot of different clients. Don't want anybody to know that we're building stuff for them. But I've heard a couple of times, well, last month we lost somebody to Julia Thornhill's team because she's building up all this stuff. And then we're like, but it's not, I know that's not the intention, but it's going to happen. And it's like, hey, it's with anything that is in business. If you don't change with the times, and I do find this in network marketing, there's like the old school network marketers who feel like, I think the old systems of, like what Eric Worre teaches is timeless. I don't think that will ever change. Like those 7 principles, it's just how you deploy them, right? Now you can deploy them not on cassette tape, but on an, automated webinar. You don't have to, you could do all of the pick up the phone and dial, though I don't see a problem with that. Not everybody wants to get on a phone. Yes, before COVID, we all got together at restaurants and did in-person meetings. Well, you can do them virtually now. I think there's room for both, but there's just so much you can do with technology now that people are going to get left behind if they don't start deploying some of this stuff. And I do think that the good leadership out there is starting to recognize it, and they are starting to see when you've got some really good top leaders in this industry that are deploying the technology, you should pay attention. So yeah. Anything else you want to share with us today about anything that we've talked about?
I mean, your question back between so I kind of talked a little bit about like the social selling space from the network marketing side of space. And then there's like that middle area. I'm excited too, to really kind of gamify even collecting the lead of who's bringing guests to an overview, and because if you don't know your numbers, you can't really operate and tweak it like a real business. And I've done this in the past, not in this way, which I'm so excited for, because then I can say, okay, and also work on the if there's 100 people that see a video, what's the conversion rate? Is 30% enrolling? Is it 10%? Is it 60%? Like, I can't tweak that if you don't know numbers that way. And so that's another way that I'm excited from that side of things to simplify it. Cause I've been doing, whether it's tracking numbers from a Vimeo, link to our Verb app, that we've used from the company side of things. So I think that's also really massive. And when you really know your numbers as a business, you can say, okay, I need to put in another 100,000 in volume this month. Well, how does that look like? How many leads do we need to bring on social media, or just, through connections? And so that also really helps.
Yeah. And you can measure a whole lot more if you're using tech and doing it. So I haven't got a chance to share this with you either. I know that you've built a webinar system, and we're talking about some tweaks to that, right? And so making some changes. So I'll say this, we just deployed for Self-Made a 1-hour webinar. It's like an hour and 18 minutes, all on, deploying automation and infusing tech into your business. And it's a free webinar, and we're running ads to it. So lots of traffic going to it. And we just deployed the ads to go live last night. And one of the coolest things that we set up in there, which is something we should talk about, is like, so it's an hour and 18 minutes. I know yours aren't that long. However, if we have all the automation set up. So someone comes in and watches and they complete 15 minutes of it, a text is going to go out and an email is going to go out and say, hey, you just missed the next best part. That's at, like you hopped off just a little too early. We couldn't wait to share the next thing with you.
So good.
And so we have these automations set up at like 25% watched, 50% watched, 75% watched. And we give like a promo, we get through the whole thing. Like there's a promo to be had at the end. And so we have all these automations set up through the entire thing to keep them engaged or come back to watch the replay so that they don't miss the part that they just missed out on. But you can't do that without technology. You can't do that without automation. But yeah, excited for that. I'll let you know how that goes. But that's all stuff that we can absolutely,
Nice.
I had one more question for you. I don't know where this randomly popped up, but maybe it was because we were talking to Brandon about his book funnel. When's Julia going to write a book? Not be a co-author. I mean,
and I get this question way too much. And when my kids are out of diapers, then yeah, but someday for sure, I think.
I have like all these ideas spinning through my head for you. So like the book that I wrote, I downplay it all the time and everybody's like, stop doing that. But listen, I wrote it as a lead magnet because I wanted to be able to get it out there and have people attracted to the idea of building tech and infusing tech into their business and figuring out what their superpowers were to intertwine all that and make your business fun and something you would like jump out of bed and can't wait to do in the morning. But I look at like, that's not my story. Like if I was going to go write a book about Jessica and Jessica's journey, it's not that. Like I still have that book in me, but I wrote that other book as a lead magnet, which is what I would highly suggest for you because everyone wants to know in the industry, what does Julia build? How does she build it? What is her roadmap? I mean, that thing would get gobbled up by a lot of people and all those put up on your list. If you know what I mean.
I know it's so much. I've co-authored a few with like Rob Sperry and I put some
and I like those. This is different.
I know.
I see a book.
Brandon's is solid. He's really his blueprint of how we do lead. I mean, it's very strategic from the back end side of things, from coaching to you talked about culture and really there's so many different. Leadership is can be complicated and he's done an amazing job at simplifying it. But yeah, I think, God kind of keeps dropping some things like, hey, and so this is the first time I'm hearing this for sure, especially recently. So that's a compliment, Jess, from you. Thanks.
Wow. I can't wait. I will be the first one to pick it up and hopefully I'll be the one to build the book funnel around it. So
yeah, you definitely will be.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I really, really appreciate it. I know how busy you are. I know what a big team you have. I know what it takes to take time away from all of that. So I really appreciate you being on here. And if you guys are looking for some of the tech that's behind what Julia is building for her team, please just take a look at the links below right on the podcast here that you're listening to. We'll link that so that you can hop in there, grab a free 14-day trial and give it a test run and see what kind of automation and amazing things you can build for your team. But any final words, Julia, before we go?
Don't be afraid to invest in you. And whether that looks like this, I think so often, again, I'm just speaking from my first year or two in entrepreneurship. I didn't understand how important that was to be able to kind of get your time back. And so at the end of the day, I always tell people the worst thing that happens is your life remains exactly the same. Best case, like you're like, thank God, and I don't promote very many things because before there's so much noise out there and a lot of smoke and mirrors, but what you guys have built is absolutely fantastic. So I just appreciate you and your brain and all the things you're doing for the industry. Well done.
Thank you. And vice versa. Thank you so much for all your time and everything that you do pour into the industry because you give way beyond your team. So thank you. I appreciate you being on here today. And I can't wait for this episode to air.
Let's go. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for tuning in to The Digital Shift. We hope today's episode gave you the tools and inspiration to take your business to the next level.
Don't forget, we have something for everyone to help you scale smarter. Whether you're just getting started or ready to go all in, we've got you covered.
Start with 14 days of free access to the Self-Made Hub, our all-in-one platform to automate, optimize, and grow your business.
Looking for more? Check out our Self-Made membership, where you can work at your own pace with help from your tech-savvy mentors.
Or take it to the next level with our 10-week accelerator program, perfect for those ready to scale with expert guidance and systems all in one place.
And if you're looking for done-for-you options, from custom funnel builds to fully done-for-you marketing systems customized just for your business,
visit us at self-made.biz to explore all of our programs and tools and find the perfect fit for your business needs.
Let's make your digital shift a reality. See you next time.